The final breath. The phantom of the Gulf. She exists in whispers. In the northern waters of the Gulf of California, where desert heat meets the weight of the sea, there swims a creature so rare, so unknown, she may already be gone by the time you finish this story. The Vaquita. A name that rolls gently from the tongue. Spanish for little cow. But make no mistake, she is not gentle by design. She is elusive by necessity. And the world has nearly forgotten her. No television spotlight. No global hashtag campaign. No massive outcry until the silence was unbearable. She was never meant to be a symbol. Yet now, she has become one, for everything we lost without meaning to. And for everything we might still lose, even while looking directly at it. Today, fewer than 10 vaquitas remain. Maybe less. And no one can say for sure if they'll see another breeding season. But to understand how we got here, you have to go back, not just through time, but through culture, corruption, and the choices that sealed her fate long before her face was ever known. Because this isn't just the story of a rare marine mammal. This is the story of what happens when nature becomes collateral. And the aftermath is silence. Animal aftermath, the final breath. A face no one expected. The Vaquita, Vaquina sinus, is the smallest species of porpoise on Earth. Discovered in 1958, it remained virtually unknown for decades due to its elusive nature and limited habitat range. Vaquitas are native only to the northern part of the Gulf of California, a narrow stretch of water between the Baja California Peninsula and mainland Mexico. Their range is restricted to an area of less than 4,000 square kilometers, roughly the size of Rhode Island, making them one of the most geographically limited marine mammals alive. Measuring just 4 to 5 feet in length and weighing around 100 pounds, the Vaquita is distinguishable by its dark eye patches and lip markings, which give it a facial appearance almost resembling that of a cartoon or mask. Its compact size and shy behavior have made in-depth observations extremely difficult, even for researchers. The Vaquita avoids boats and rarely breaches the surface. It communicates in high-frequency clicks, above the hearing range of human ears, adapted for navigating the murky, shallow waters it inhabits. Despite being part of the porpoise family, the Vaquita's physiology is notably different from its relatives. It evolved to thrive in warm, shallow, and turbid coastal environments, where visibility is low and predation is minimal. But these same traits made it highly vulnerable to changes in habitat and human activity. By the time the scientific community turned its attention to the Vaquita in the 1990s, its numbers were already in steep decline. The Vaquita's biology contributes significantly to its endangered status. Unlike many marine mammals that reproduce frequently or in large numbers, Vaquitas follow a slow reproductive cycle. A female gives birth to a single calf approximately once every 2 years, with a gestation period lasting around 10 to 11 months. Calves are born between spring and early summer, when environmental conditions are stable. This slow reproductive rate makes recovery from population declines nearly impossible without significant human intervention. Even under ideal conditions, population growth is minimal. The Vaquita has no known subspecies. It is a singular, genetically distinct animal that evolved in isolation. Genetic studies have shown low diversity within the population, but not to the extent that would hinder survival. Inbreeding depression has not been a documented threat, although it may become relevant as numbers continue to decline. Vaquitas feed primarily on small schooling fish, squid, and crustaceans. Their diet is shaped by the ecosystem of the upper Gulf of California, a region once rich in marine biodiversity. They typically forage near the seafloor, using echolocation to hunt in murky waters. They are non-migratory and highly territorial, spending their lives within a limited range. This restricted habitat, while once a protection, has become a trap. Unlike larger cetaceans that can move to deeper or safer waters when threatened, the Vaquita remains confined. The narrowness of its environment has amplified the impacts of pollution, habitat degradation, and fishing practices. Its size, behavior, and biology all reflect a creature built perfectly for its environment, but not for the changes forced upon it by industrialization and illegal fishing. Caught in the net. The primary cause of the Vaquita's decline is bycatch in illegal gill nets. These nets, used for fishing a critically endangered fish called the totoaba, are nearly invisible in the water and stretch for hundreds of meters. Vaquitas become entangled and drown because, like all porpoises, they must surface to breathe. The totoaba is targeted for its swim bladder, known as butch, which is highly valued in traditional Chinese medicine. A single bladder can sell for thousands of dollars on the black market. This has fueled a lucrative illegal trade between Mexican fishermen and international traffickers. Although both the Vaquita and the totoaba are protected under national and international laws, enforcement has been inconsistent. Corruption, lack of resources, and the economic dependence of local communities on fishing have made effective regulation difficult. The rise in gillnet fishing in the upper Gulf of California began in the 1990s. By the early 2000s, scientists began documenting a rapid decline in Vaquita numbers. In 1997, the estimated population was around 567 individuals. By 2015, that number had dropped to fewer than 100. In 2023, estimates suggest fewer than 10 remain, with some reports indicating that only 6 individuals are confirmed. Efforts to ban gillnets in the Vaquita's habitat have been met with resistance. While the Mexican government has implemented temporary bans, enforcement remains weak. Fishermen, often under pressure from organized crime, continue to deploy the deadly nets at night. The black market demand for totoaba swim bladders has created a situation where the Vaquita is collateral damage in a transnational crime network. Each year, more nets are deployed, and with each net, the likelihood of survival for the species drops further. The final countdown. Conservation efforts to save the vaquita have been extensive but largely unsuccessful. Multiple organizations, including the Mexican government, Sea Shepherd, and the International Committee for the Recovery of the Vaquita, (SERVA), have worked to monitor and protect the remaining population. Despite these efforts, illegal fishing has continued to undermine progress. In 2017, a last resort attempt was made to capture some of the remaining vaquitas and hold them in a protected sea enclosure until the waters were safe. The operation, known as Vaquita CPR, was led by a team of international marine experts. The goal was to breed the animals in captivity or at least preserve them until the use of gill nets could be stopped. The operation ended in failure. One of the captured vaquitas died of stress within hours, and the remaining animal had to be released. The species proved too sensitive to captivity, and the project was halted immediately. This confirmed what many feared: the vaquita cannot survive outside its natural environment. Acoustic monitoring, which uses underwater sensors to detect vaquita echolocation clicks, remains one of the only reliable ways to track the few individuals left. But these detections are rare and declining each year. International pressure has mounted on the Mexican government to take stronger action. Trade sanctions have been threatened, and environmental groups have pushed for stricter enforcement of gillnet bans. However, on-the-ground reality remains unchanged. The remaining vaquitas are likely all closely related. Although geneticists believe the population could technically recover with even a small number of individuals, this is only possible if all gillnet fishing ends immediately and permanently, a scenario that seems increasingly unlikely. The countdown has already begun. What remains is no longer a question of conservation, but a question of whether extinction will be acknowledged or ignored. Alone in the silence. As of the most recent estimates, the number of remaining vaquitas is believed to be fewer than 10. These individuals inhabit a small zone in the northernmost part of the Gulf of California, a region still heavily targeted by illegal fishing operations. The animals are not being actively protected in real time. Instead, their survival depends on chance, on whether or not they can avoid the invisible nets that fill their shrinking territory. No captive population exists. No successful breeding program has been established. Every vaquita alive today was born in the wild, and each one remains vulnerable every moment it swims. Acoustic data from underwater listening devices have confirmed that some vaquitas are still alive. These detections are brief and infrequent, but they confirm movement, communication, and survival. However, they also reveal how isolated the individuals have become. No confirmed sightings of calves have been made in recent years. The absence of reproductive evidence raises the possibility that the species may already be functionally extinct. Without breeding, even a small number of individuals cannot repopulate. Some scientists hold hope, citing evidence that a few females of breeding age may still exist. But time is against them. Vaquitas do not strand on beaches or leave visible signs of their deaths. Most of those that die in gillnets sink or are discarded at sea. This makes tracking mortality difficult and renders each disappearance a silent one. Efforts to monitor the remaining population are ongoing, but limited by funding, local resistance, and dangerous working conditions in areas affected by organized crime. The few vaquitas that remain are likely unaware they are the last of their kind. They continue to feed, navigate, and communicate as they always have, alone, in the same waters their ancestors swam for thousands of years. The aftermath. The vaquita is now one of the rarest and most endangered animals on the planet. Despite decades of warnings, international attention, and emergency actions, the species has continued its decline toward extinction. It is not extinct yet, but the window for recovery is nearly closed. This outcome was not caused by a natural predator, disease, or climate disaster. It was caused by human activity, specifically, illegal fishing driven by black market demand and a failure to enforce environmental protections. The vaquita situation reflects a wider crisis affecting marine biodiversity across the globe. Overfishing, habitat destruction, pollution, and illegal trade have pushed countless species to the brink. The story of the vaquita is not an isolated case, it is a warning. It also raises critical questions about conservation. How does a species vanish in full view of the scientific community? What happens when protection laws are ignored? And what does it mean when an animal becomes so rare that even saving it becomes controversial? The vaquita has become a symbol of what is lost when action comes too late. It reminds the world that extinction can be quiet. It can happen without headlines, without memorials, without notice. And when it does, it leaves behind no echo, just absence. In 2024, monitoring teams confirmed that a few vaquitas were still alive. There is no guarantee that number will hold through the next year. Without a dramatic shift in enforcement and the permanent removal of gillnets, extinction is inevitable. The scientific community has not declared the species extinct because hope remains, however faint. But the facts point to a future where the vaquita will be known only through images, recordings, and a few preserved specimens. It is the first marine mammal to face extinction in the 21st century. And if current trends continue, it will not be the last. In the end, the vaquita did not disappear because it was weak, unfit, or incapable.